Hello everyone! So today we're going to be going into the historic all-access basically no bans event, where I'm going to be showing you a fun 4-colored Omnath deck. Now, this is unlike the no ban historic in that some of those real powerhouses that we see, like Channel and Demonic Tutor, are actually banned in this format. But on the flip side, we also get to deal with none of the alchemy cards and get to put together a really strong historic deck. Additionally, since this is an all-access event, any of you could build any deck with any combination of cards, so you don't even have to own all of these cards to go ahead and build this deck that I'm about to show you right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the deck. Alright, so first and foremost, we'll just talk through all of our card choices. Here we have Gigantha as our companion. There's really no reason not to include Gigantha here. We're not really missing out on anything by including Gigantha, so it's just going to be extra value and one sideboard slot. So I think that's going to be really strong for us in some of our games. Moving on, we have some premium removal in Swords to Plowshares. This is a fantastic card for getting rid of our opponent's threats. We also have the early game Ragavan, which is really going to help us kind of snowball into those later turns and get additional value off of our opponent's deck. For our primary ramp piece, we're using Utopia Sprawl. We are going to have a bunch of forests in our Shocklands and basic lands that we can fetch with Fabled Passage, so there's really no reason that that restriction is going to be problematic for us, and this is going to give us some strong early game ramp. We're also including 4 copies of Once Upon a Time. The goal would be to cast 1 for free on our first turn, kind of fix up our hand just a little bit, and even in the later turns for 2 mana, this isn't a terrible effect for us. Now moving on to our Planeswalkers, we have Teferi Time Raveler, back down at 3 mana like he was printed, and this is going to be an absolute powerhouse, stopping our opponents from interacting with us on our turns, which is going to be really powerful, and also being able to disrupt their board. We've also included Oko, Thief of Crowns. Now, everyone knows that Oko was banned almost immediately because he was crazy good, and, well, that hasn't changed. Oko is still going to be very good. We also included another banned card in most competitive formats, which is Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. This is great for ramp for us. I'm going to draw some cards, and it's a fantastic body to get out onto the battlefield, so that's going to be really powerful as well. Then we have the whole reason why we're running so many colors in this deck, Omnath, Locus of Creation. He has those landfall triggers. Of course, without any fetch lands, this deck is going to be a little bit worse than some of its modern counterparts. However, the landfall ability is still going to be good. Gaining 4 life on that first time is going to be very powerful for us. For the second time, getting some extra mana, also going to be really strong at accelerating us. And then we do have 4 copies of Karn as well. Since we've made it to Karn, let's talk a little bit about our sideboard. So of course, Gigantha has to take one of our sideboards slots, and then we have Tormod's Crypt to deal with graveyard decks. We have Pithing Needle to shut down important artifacts. We have the ever-present Liquid Metal Coating to start destroying our opponent's lands with Karn. Stone Brain to remove some pesky or annoying card out of our opponent's deck, especially if they're a combo deck, we can disrupt that. We have the One Ring for protection, and the Console Flagship just to be able to deal some damage and start attacking our opponents. So that's going to be very powerful. Taking a look at the land base, there are a couple of things worth pointing out here. We do have Field of the Dead. So Field of the Dead is going to start making us some zombies after we find it, and this is an incredibly powerful land. So this is really nice to have in the land base. We have a bunch of shock lands, some of the lands that will come in untapped early, so we have those fast lands. And then we are including Boseiju and Otawara as our channel lands. We do run 4 copies of Fabled Passage here. Again, this deck would be much better if we had access to fetch lands, but Fabled Passage is going to have to do for now since that's the closest that we have on Arena. But yeah, this is going to be our deck. Remember, if you guys have been enjoying my content, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on my latest videos. And if you do enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. Let's go ahead and see how this deck does. Alright, on the play here, this looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and keep this. We have the turn 1 Ragavan. We'll be able to play our swords as well. So let's go Stomping Ground Ragavan. Opponent starts with a Steam Vent, gonna bolt the Ragavan. And that's fine by me. Let's see, we have a couple of options for what we want to do here. We can play Utopia Sprawl on our Stomping Ground. That is an option. And I think we do want to do that and pick blue. We could also just have this land enter tapped, play like this, pick blue here on the Temple Garden. A little worried about Blood Moon, but that's going to be okay. Ragavan. And Delver. Mishra's Bauble. So I think we're just going to play out Omnath here. We do find Field of the Dead, but we need the colored mana. Omnath. Draw a card. We find a Ragavan. So we already have a mana advantage on our opponent. And they don't get to flip the Delver this turn. Now if they do attack with Ragavan, they could be trading Ragavan for Omnath. We'll see what they decide to do. Again, Omnath does survive their Lightning Bolt. Alright, Brainstorm, sure. Looking for a removal spell. Maybe another land. Next turn we have Fabled Passage, which is going to be really powerful with our Omnath. We can even dash Ragavan. Start getting treasures. I do want to play around the potential for a Blood Moon. And of course, our opponent might have Counterspell here. I wouldn't be surprised. But they don't attack, so that does kind of reveal their hand to us just a little bit. We're going to play Fabled Passage here. Gain some life. Activate the Fabled Passage. Going to give us some mana as well. We're going to grab a green land. And now we have a couple of options. We'll use the white mana for swords. We'll just kill the Ragavan. We can use the other mana for Gigantha. And then we'll just play out Gigantha. This will probably draw a counterspell, if they have it. Nope, opponent just says good game. Can't deal with Gigantha, alright. Alright, going first here, this is a keepable starting hand. I don't see any issues here. We'll go with a tapped Breeding Pool. Again, no need to shock anything in just yet. Tap Stomping Ground. Elias Eel Core. Because it has a 2/2. I think I'm going to go ahead and shock this in, play out Oko, and start making food tokens. Sure, our opponent can hit our Oko, but that's for 2 damage, and we have a +2 each turn. So we'll try and stabilize. So we're definitely looking at like an Aristocrats type situation here. So we need white for Omnath. Let's grab white, play out our Omnath. We draw a card. Let's go ahead plus here. And Elias Eelcore is gonna lose Death Touch and become a 3/3, so we upgrade him to downgrade him. Alright, now let's figure out what we want to do here. We have Omnath, so this is a great Uro turn. Plaza Heroes. We'll play another Plaza of Heroes for turn, add a bunch of mana. Let's see. We'll go ahead, get rid of you. We can plus turn you into an elk. Not that it particularly matters. We don't have enough cards in our graveyard yet. Let's play out our Ragavan. And then get Gigantha into our hand. Then we'll go Utopia Sprawl. Let's pick Stomping Ground. We'll add... We have double blue, we have double green. But we'll just go ahead and add a blue mana there. I think that's going to be the better option. We're in a pretty good spot. And if we can get some more cards into our graveyard, then bringing Uro back is going to be strong. Oko's just kind of sitting over here, making it really difficult for our opponent to do anything. Next turn, we'll play out Gigantha. I mean, getting a 5/5 on the board is going to be pretty good for us, too. And of course, we can also hold up mana with our Plaza of Heroes on following turns to kind of protect our legendary creatures. This is also an option. Here, I mean, we're already starting to see the power of Oko, where each turn we can just permanently change one of our opponent's creatures to be a 3/3. So regardless of what they end up playing, we only really have to be prepared to deal with a 3/3. Yeah. I don't think our opponent found another land either, so this might just be the end of the game for them. Alright, well, opponents just passed their turn. I think we're just going to go for Uro again. Just play it out, draw another card. Nothing there. Alright. We can steal one of their creatures with Oko. I don't think we want to do that just yet, so we're going to plus again, make another food token.
Welcome to the feast.
And we'll just pass the turn. Our opponent's been on the rope lately, so I imagine the game's pretty much over here. And we've got it. Alright, so now to switch things up, we're going to be moving over to a Rakdos mid-range deck. Let's talk through some of our card inclusions here. We have 2 copies of Dark Ritual for some early ramp, so we can get our Shieldreds and One Rings out onto the battlefield as early as turn 2. We've got Fatal Push and Lightning Bolt for some removal/burn here. 2 copies of each. Just to kind of help us deal with our opponent's threats. 4 copies of Thoughtseize to be proactive and disrupt combos, as well as 4 copies of Ragavan, since Ragavan is going to be such a powerful early game attacker. Now we do have 4 copies of Bowmasters here. Bowmasters does not have the Alchemy nerf, so this is going to be really powerful in our deck at the 2 mana slot. Then up in the 3 mana slot, we've actually kind of loaded up here. We have 4 copies of Blood Moon to deal with our opponent's lands. So anyone who's trying to play one of those multicolored land decks is going to have a big issue. All of the Field of the Dead decks are going to get shut down as well, so this is going to be really powerful. And of course, that means we're going to want to make sure we get at least 1 swamp out onto the battlefield before we cast our Blood Moon, so we aren't cut off of all of our black lands entirely. But most of our cards and card draw we can cast with red anyway, so it's not that big of a deal if we do shut off our black lands. Now, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is going to be really strong value for us. It's also going to give us some filtering. Same here with Seasoned Pyromancer, letting us discard cards and draw cards. This is great if we have an empty hand. And then we have Obnixilis the Adversary, just getting a Planeswalker out on the battlefield so we can deal some recurring value. And as I'd mentioned briefly at the beginning, 4 copies of the One Ring to give us protection, to draw us some more cards, and then of course Shieldred, who pairs very well with this particular card, as well as a lot of the other cards that we have in our deck as well. Taking a look at our mana base, 6 swamps, 6 mountains. We have Sokazon, so we have some additional value out of one of our red lands. And then, of course, we've got Blackleaf Cliffs, Blood Crypt, and then 1 copy of Mount Doom. So let's go ahead and see how this does. Alright, opponent goes first, but this looks like a really good starting hand for us, so I'm going to go ahead and keep this. We have Dark Ritual One Ring, which could be very strong in the early game, giving us additional card draw. We've got the Bowmasters as well. Making our way up to Obnixilis. Bowmaster sacrifice the token up for Obnixilis is pretty strong. I do like that. And of course, we've now just drawn into a Blood Moon, so I'm going to start with a Mountain. Here we're going to hold on to our Bowmasters, flash this out if necessary. And now that we have both a Mountain and a Swamp, I think I'm going to be okay playing out Blood Moon next turn as well. Which is going to turn off 2 of our opponent's lands. Alright, so they play out Nazgul. That's fine. Ring will tempt them. We'll flash in our Bowmasters. Amass. Deal the 1 damage there. And then us, well, let's go ahead and play Sokazon here. Play ourselves a Blood Moon. And no attacks. So now our opponent's down to having only 2 planes available to them, in terms of mana that they actually expected to be dealing with. No black mana is probably going to make it very difficult for our opponent. And of course, I'm a big fan of doing that. Destroy Evil. Alright, they were prepared for the Blood Moon. Back to having black mana. Either way, though, that was a very disruptive turn. No blocks. We can take 2 damage here. Alright, now let's think about what I want to do here. We play out Mount Doom as our land. Now, if we do get the 3 mana here, we can use it to cast Obnixilis and the Bowmasters. That could be fun. I still think we want to wait, though. So let's go with Obnixilis here. Sacrifice you. And then we're going to just start gaining some life with our Obnixilises. So let's go ahead and make our Devil.
Join me, or die.
And then we'll ask our opponent if they would like to discard a card. Or lose 2 life. Now, while it's less than ideal, we can, of course, chump block the Nazgul. If it is going to kill one of our Obnixilises. I actually don't mind chumping with the Bowmasters, just because we will have another Bowmasters. I do kind of want to keep our Devil token alive. Though that likely means our opponent is going to want to kill our Devil token. Another Nazgul. So this is a card draw trigger that our opponent is going to have when they attack with their Ring Bearer. Which might lend itself to us actually going Dark Ritual and playing out the Bowmasters. So we're going to go Dark Ritual. Orcish Bowmasters. So we have the ETB and then an additional 2 damage. We might just be able to kill this Nazgul outright. Either way, we'll be able to chump block. Opponent's thinking about what to do, because obviously we've disrupted their game plan. Yep, we're gonna hit you. And of course our opponent just drawed their second card, so they have to choose to discard, and then there'll be 2 more Bowmasters triggers. That's going to bring our Orc army up to being a 3-3 as well, since there are going to be 2 amasses there. I'll ping our opponent's face here. And then we'll block. Keep our Ob Nixilis alive. Now our opponent can remove our Orc army here. But it looks like they might not have that removal spell. Sure. Seasoned Pyromancer will soon be an option for us to refuel our hand. I think ideally we see a land this next turn. Land 1 ring. Either way, our opponent is slowly going to be losing life, and they're going to have to contend with both of our Ob Nixilises next turn. Another Seasoned Pyromancer. Start plussing the Ob Nixilises.
Defy me, and you'll lose everything.
Go ahead, do this again, gain some more life.
Pleasure doing.
I think we just play out the 1 ring. End the turn here. We're going to get to deal some more damage and amass some more with our Bowmasters if our opponent attacks, just because of the way their Ring Bearer works. So they almost can't attack with their Ring Bearer. We can draw a card off the 1 ring as well. Nazgul. Yep. Now I'd imagine we see them swinging at the Ob Nixilises, trying to stop that damage. Okay. No blocks. Somebody didn't read what the 1 ring does. We'll draw a card. And we've got it. Alright, and we are back with another pretty good looking starting hand. Opponent goes first, but we do have the turn 1 Thoughtseize here, which I like. Dark Ritual is also going to be really helpful for us. Let's go turn 1 Thoughtseize. Opponent plays the Sanctum. They might be able to counter this if they have a Spell Pierce or something like that. They do. Regardless, we've gotten rid of a Spell Pierce, which is going to be really strong for us. Breeding Pool shocked in. Maybe they're holding up a counterspell. Who knows? Let's play our other Cliffs. I'm going to dash Ragavan. We draw the counterspell. That's also fine. Again, we're up on cards on our opponent, so if they want to keep going 1 for 1 like this, we're actually going to be able to win that. Mountain Fable. Eventually, our opponent will run out of the counterspells. There we go. Maybe would they have the counterspell here? Nope, they do not. So we get Fable here. That's going to be big for ramp for us. Now I'm curious as to what deck our opponent's playing here. Could be like a Fog style deck, maybe. Could see that being a problem. Yep. 1 ring, that's fine. Burden counter, draw their card. Our opponent's tapped down, so I think we play a 1 ring of our own next turn. Discard up to 2. I'm going to discard, I think, just the Lightning Bolt. We find Bowmasters. I'm going to cast the Dark Ritual. I'll go 1 ring. Swing out. It doesn't matter because they have protection, but we still have the treasure token there, so I'll gladly tap that for a treasure token. Ragavan. Oh, accidentally dashed there. That was a mistake. He'll come back to the hand. Either way, that's fine. End the turn. Opponent's going to take 1 damage off the 1 ring. Would have liked to, again, keep Ragavan on the battlefield. Would have been much stronger for us. Opponent's going to draw 2 cards. Either way, we're still going to be in a pretty good spot. Orcish Bowmasters is going to do really well into the One Ring.
I'm certain you're quite charmed to meet me.
Okay, Oko, sure. Makes a food token. Yep.
One bite, and all your fears.
We'll activate the ring to draw. Find Seasoned Pyromancer. That's going to be really strong for us. Alright, Blood Moon is going to be really good here. So I am going to cast it. Casting the Blood Moon. See, I don't think our opponent has the counterspell here. Which is going to be really good for us. Nope, they do have the counterspell. So no Blood Moon for us, and that's alright. Let's see. I think we dash Ragavan. And let's go ahead and move to combat. Attack like this. We get our treasure token. Ragavan connects. We'll get another treasure token. Hit Uro off the top. We'll activate the One Ring. Draw some more cards. Land. We can cast Uro here. But it's just going to go to our opponent's graveyard, so no real reason to. We'll end the turn, return Ragavan. We can flash out Bowmasters when our opponent taps the One Ring. Again, Oka's not going to be able to do that -5, which is pretty strong for us, and he's not going to want a plus for the Elks. Yeah, in response, we go Bowmasters, pay like this. Now, of course, our opponent may have a counterspell. Memory Lapse, that's fine. Bowmasters goes on top. We'll just be able to draw it and some extras off the One Ring. Oko probably gonna plus for the food. It's gonna be my guess, at least. Nope. Makes their food into a 3/3 blocker. Yep. Let's draw some more cards off the One Ring. Let's see, let's Thoughtseize first. And then we can Fatal Push the token. Opponent's gonna offer here, give us some treasures. And we'll play on the stack. Let's just kill this as well with the Fatal Push. Looks good, yep. Counter that. We'll get our extra treasures. Mount Doom is actually kind of big for us here, because that 1 damage can add up over time. Gonna dash Ragavan. Tap our Reflection, make a copy here. Move to combat. Swing like this. Make some treasures. Flash in the Bowmasters. Ping down the Shark.
Why do you cross me?
We find a Memory Lapse. Doesn't do too much for us. We can play out another One Ring, but I think we're going to hold here. Opponent's down at 8. If they draw off the One Ring, we're going to get to hit them with Orcish Bowmasters. Kill Oko, and then deal damage to our opponent's face.
I see you don't share my vision.
Things are looking pretty good for us. Again, their One Ring is going to kill them if they don't have a replacement for that. New One Ring for our opponent. And that's fine. Temporary Fog effect. I think we're going to do the same thing that they did on our turn, where it's tap our One Ring. Uro, gain some life. Sure. Yeah, I think we'll cycle out into our new One Ring as well. 1 damage. Doesn't matter what we pick, so we'll just pick the Uro here. We can't actually pick our opponent because they have protection. Worst case scenario, we'd have to hit our army or something like that. Bird encounter on the One Ring, draws a card. I mean, we'll just ping them. Activate this ability. Draw a bunch. Gonna replace our One Ring with a new One Ring. Then we'll play out the swamp. I think there's no real reason to pay any mana on the reflection to make a treasure token. We're gonna keep this one. Swamp. We'll move to combat. Again, they have protection, we're just doing this for the treasure token. And we'll end our turn here. I was gonna lose 1 life. Down at 7. With these extra Bowmasters, it's going to be really dangerous for our opponent to draw off the One Ring. Let's play out this Bowmasters. If they have a counterspell, they're probably going to use it here. Memory Lapse. Sure, let's play out our other Bowmasters. We can draw with our One Ring and flash back that Bowmasters that we just had. That they Memory Lapse for us. Stay in full control here. Memory Lapse. Activate. We're gonna draw a card. It's gonna be the Bowmasters. We'll flash in the Bowmasters. And then we should have lethal on our opponent. Unless they have some way of preventing all this damage. They're gonna need to have another counterspell here. Or some way of gaining life. And then we can also use our reflection to make a copy of the Bowmasters as well. Yep, opponent says good game. We'll submit that. Reflections, make a copy. Last treasure. I'm gonna extra secure the kill. Ping there. Pick that one. There we go. We can leave full control now. Our opponent's going to draw their cards. And we have plenty of triggers. And we've got it. Alright, so those are 2 very fun decks to play in this no bans all access format, but there are plenty of others that are also very exciting. If you guys are interested in seeing a couple more decks, please let me know in a comment. I'll be more than happy to go back and make those for you. But I hope this gave you a little bit of insight into what that looks like when you're starting to play with all those cards that aren't banned and getting closer and closer to what the modern format is on Arena. So that's all I've got for you all today, and I will see you guys next time.